Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about a recent framework that I discovered to help predict the EO of LSE from the CMLL. So basically, we all know this website, Battle Trove CML Visualizer. That's pretty cool, right? You put a CMLL, it'll provide you the EO and AP changes as a kind of an arrow chart over here. However, I think it's rather difficult to apply it in practice just because we can't as humans react super quickly to track both EO and EP changes of multiple pieces and then recognize, hey, that's going to be the EO. That's not like a very quick and practical way. So what I'm proposing here is instead we kind of focus we don't focus on this arrow chart where we track pieces, but rather we focus on this shape to shape transformations by making a table of each kind of EO shape. So I made this table here that's automated. You just input the case and it'll enumerate all the EO cases for you. And what's great about this is we can just stare at the shapes and try to figure out some simpler patterns or like rules of thumb to apply to. And this is going to be a case per case analysis, but I feel like since a single case will only affect a certain number of cases, a certain number of edges, it's not going to be that huge of a amount of EO cases. For example, this algorithm is known to be pretty difficult to predict LSE EO for, just because it moves 4 edge pieces, but it's actually okay if we enumerate it. That's only like 16 unique EO pieces, EO configurations, and then my framework is about coming up with simpler rules to summarize how can we derive the afterwards EO shape from the beforehand EO shape right here. So basically there are 60 mappings, right? But if we figure out the right rules, this should be super easy. I'm just gonna show you a concrete example right now. Right, so here are the rules. Same CML case, you AOF first, and then you compare like a pair of edges. So UF, DF, you compare if they're the same or opposite. If they're the same, then DF will be flipped. Like whatever the current EO is gonna be the opposite of it. And if they're the opposite, then DF will stay fixed as is. Right, the same rule applies to this pair. So we compare UB and UF. If they're opposite, then UF stays the same. If they are the same, then UF will be flipped. All right, now this is all mathematically precise. I actually derive them from this arrow chart because you see in this arrow chart, this CML alg will flip these two edges and move this edge here. So if they are opposite, what will happen is this will be flipped and then travel here. So because of that flip happening, these two being opposite beforehand means that this would kind of stay the same afterwards, just because this is opposite and then flipped and then goes here. Right? So that's the mathematical relationship behind that. Now, some other times, this is less intuitive, then perhaps you can summarize the rules just by staring at these 16 cases, right? Which is what they're for. They kind of set your expectation for how the rules should be, because this is more like intuitive. And sometimes you can just stare at these cases and find out rules, but in this specific case, I guess my rule was rather can be derived from the arrow chart itself. But anyways, the third rule is about inferring the rest of the pieces, because look, there are only 4 edges that are affected by the CML, like I talked about before, and we already figured out 2 of them by the rule, and then all that is left is UB and UR. And since the arrow chart tells us this goes here, we can summarize this to a rule, or condense it to a rule that usually UB and UR will swap EO position. And that's actually enough, I think, a lot of times, if not all the times. We'll find out. So again, rules tell us these two are opposite, this stays the same. These two opposite, this stays the same. And these two will swap, but since they're all like mist-oriented, this will just stay there. So this is overall a fixed point, meaning that the EO shape would be preserved after the algorithm, and we can confirm that. All right. Indeed, we see that it is preserved, and we can just solve that as normal. Notice that this framework is only for EO prediction. I don't know if it can be extended to EP prediction or how easy that would be, but hopefully this is the starting point, because I think this is the first existing framework that provides a precise ability to predict LSE EO, especially for these cases where both EO and EP changes a lot. now onto our second example case. It's AUF again. And now we're looking at these pairs being opposite, so this would stay the same. However, in this case, this pair is the same, so this will be flipped. So we know that this will be flipped. All right, and by the current EO, we can infer that DB is solved, the EO is solved, right? And since this is flipped, we know that one of these would be kind of correct afterwards. Now, which one of these? Well, it's time to use our third rule, that is, usually UB and UR would kind of swap position, or rather UR would go to UB is a better way to put it. So since there's this movement, we can just trust that this would go here, all right? And the other wrong EO is here, so it's just gonna be this EO, 1, 1. And let's confirm that. Indeed, we are correct again by applying our simple rules of thumb. All right, now just one more example. Okay, now again, let's apply the pair rule first. Same, flipped, same, flipped. So since these are currently solved, we know that after flipping them, they will be actually flipped. Okay, that's a bad way to put it, but you know what I mean. So these will be flipped, and this, again, UR would go to UB, so we have this case. All right, so this is an error case with a U prime AUF. I'm just gonna head straight into it. Yes, that was correct. That's awesome. So yeah, you've seen how I applied my rules to actually predict it. I think it's pretty fast, like it's faster than tracking, and I think it has potential of, you know, actually making it in time, like, and I think it has the potential of, you know, actually being executed in time before we finish our CML algorithm. So yeah, this is just a single rule that I literally just discovered a few minutes ago, but I think it has a lot of potential because it seems that this approach of figuring out whether a single EO will be changed or not based on a pair comparison is a very generic rule and can probably apply to any kind of CML case of a similar difficulty here, which are super useful because right now I don't think anyone is able to, you know, consistently predict those EOs. So that's my framework. I have also analyzed this case. So this case only moves around 3 edge pieces. So the rules are kind of simpler, and I kind of directly derive them from analyzing the cases. So yeah, but basically the idea is we really want to summarize the rules so it's really easy to kind of tell, and also kind of be carried out in parallel, as opposed to this thing where it's kind of like a sequential tracking thing. So I'm still unsure how this will turn out to be, but I'm getting pretty good results so far. And also I want to thank Max Wintek for his help and observations in, you know, coming up with these cases, and also noting that it's sufficient to only, you know, track the affected edges and list out the cases for these edges. So yeah, if you also want to you know, share your thoughts and try to contribute to this project, feel free to reach out to me. I think this has a lot of potential, and I think this would really move the root community forward on a higher level, because, you know, pauseless CML LSE transition is the dream, and I think that's going to be the goal. That is going to be one of the future technologies that's got to be discovered if root is to catch up with CFOP at all on a very advanced level. So yeah, that's my video. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.